I've accepted it. I just sneezed. No. I'll have to hold out for a grandson.
You can have another one.
No, I'm too old for this one. I'm gonna be the old mom in the class.
All right. Y'all ready? Everybody ready? Miss Margie, you ready? All right. Is your microphones on? All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I would like to welcome everybody to April 1st. It's been running a little late tonight. 6:04 is official time. I need approval of agenda of this. Excuse me. Approval of the agenda at this time.
So moved, Chairman.
You got a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Our invocation of pledge tonight is going to be Miss Pamela Peak. She's with the Boys and Girls Club of Jones County and Baldwin County. Miss Peak.
First of all, on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club, I want to thank you all for giving us the privilege of coming over to actually have a part of this meeting. And what we're going to do is I'm going to invite my little helpers up.
All right.
And they're going to actually kind of spearhead the prayer and pledge.
Man, that is
and
great.
then we'll do a brief presentation to our county commissioners with your permission.
Great. Okay, we've got
so
you on.
we'll ask the lead person for the pledge to come up, if that works.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine. We can make it work.
Go
ahead.
You sure?
Everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody, please stand.
So this is my man that's going to kind of lead it, Mr. Jace. So we'll come up.
May you please stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we'll have Miss Kennedy with the Boys and Girls Club to kind of lead in invocation.
All right.
Let us bow our heads and pray. Thank you, Lord, for giving us this opportunity to come out here and have a presentation, Lord, and help us to make this a great day, Lord, and bless the food and bless the ones who prepared it, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
And now we'll have Miss Yasmin to come up and do a brief presentation. If we can get the chairman to step down for that presentation on behalf of the county commissioners, and I will let her read what the presentation is regarding.
Certificate of the Club Honor. This acknowledges that Jones County Board of Commissioners has committed to youth within our community. We have served more than 9,300 youth over the course of 30 years thanks to your support. Words cannot express the gratitude or the impact that the Board of Commissioners has had on the Boys and Girls Club of Baldwin and Jones County. Please accept this certificate of honor as a symbol of our gratitude and ensuring that great futures start here with our organization.
Thank you.
Get a picture.
I'm very proud of y'all. That's my Thank you. Thank y'all so much. We're so proud of y'all.
Guess what?
Thank y'all so much.
No.
Thank you all again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we get started tonight, we're going to move on to planning and zoning. With every planning and zoning hearing, we'll get both sides an opportunity to speak, and those that are asking for the request and those that have opposed the request, so everybody get opportunity. But this time, Mr. Pachowski, would you like to present the zoning request?
Chairman, this is a request by BFB Partners LLC to rezone approximately 9.29 acres from C2 to R3 to allow a multifamily dwelling community serving 64 units. The Planning Commission has recommended denial of this request.
Okay. Is there any questions for Mr. Pachowski at this time?
I guess I do, Chairman. There was a guess a handout that was presented, and it's at the end of it had a recommendation approval for rezoning R3 with the added conditions that the complex only allow to serve 55 plus type of development. So, anything want to? That's it, or
When the staff report was written, my opinion was based on the future land use map and the designation of suburban residential. After meeting with the developer last week, and he pointed out to me that the suburban residential category does have a provision for multifamily contained within, and that was my biggest stumbling block when I've written my previous staff report. So having that called to my attention, I changed my recommendation based upon the condition that it be limited to a 55 plus community. But that does not change the planning commission's recommendation based on what was presented to them. It was not a 55 plus community.
So it's not restricted to 55 plus in any way?
Not the application that's presented to you by the developer, no, sir.
Okay, any other question for Ms. Petrowski? Is
Thank you.
BFP General Partners, would you like to come forward?
Yes, sir. Grab it easy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, again.
And also have a couple handouts. That's okay.
Thank you.
I also got a few more. All right. Hello, my name is Joseph Johnson. I represent BFB General Partners in the zoning application. I've given you two handouts. The first handout is just a corporate brochure that tells you a little bit more about our company and what we've managed to accomplish over the last 30 years. At the end of the booklet, there's a list of projects that we currently own and operate. We've never sold any of those properties that we've developed in Georgia in the whole history of the company. So when we build a project, we maintain it and we retain ownership throughout the life cycle of that property. So tonight, the other handout is more focused on this particular application. And I wanted to just clarify something up front. We are committed to making our application conditional on a tenancy that serves people that are older than age 55. So if you were to approve this zoning tonight, we could add a condition to it that just said, you approve the zoning application subject to the condition that it will only serve tenants older than age 55. So we're proposing, there's a page number on the bottom, and if you'll go to page 1 with me, it talks about the history of the zoning of this particular parcel. It's the gray concrete parcel. It was currently owned by Reams Concrete, but formerly owned by Gray Concrete. It's roughly 44 acres, and what we're proposing is subdividing 9 acres and rezoning it from general commercial to multifamily residential. Currently, the whole 44-acre parcel, except for 8 acres, is zoned general commercial. So if a developer came in today and wanted to build a department store like a Dollar General or a liquor store or auto repair garage, or any other commercial use that's allowed under C2, they could build that without a public hearing just by submitting a building permit application. And the only setback or buffer between that use and the single family lots along Pinewood Drive would be 25 feet, and possibly on the rear setback of the property, a fence that's 6 foot tall. So, I mean, 25 feet is from here to the clock at the back of the wall. I mean, that's not much of a buffer at all. What we're proposing has substantially more of a buffer. I mean, we're talking 300 feet. That's a football field. The future land use map for this area is in that top right picture. And if you notice, the whole area is designated as suburban residential. And suburban residential allows for multifamily use. It actually encourages multifamily and single family uses. So our proposal of a multifamily residential zoning is much more consistent with a future land use plan than the current zoning of general commercial. I also want to point out in the diagram at the bottom that every parcel that's highlighted in color is zoned multifamily residential except for the gray concrete parcel. So there's a lot of basis for a multifamily zoning in this area. Not to mention, millions of dollars were just spent on a gray bypass to encourage development in that area. On the right side, I want to draw your attention to the growing need for affordable senior housing in Jones County. So I pulled both of these charts from the Middle Georgia Regional Plan. It's published by the Middle Georgia Regional Commission, and it was just published in 2016. And it says that in Middle Georgia, while they expect the population to increase among all age segments, in the age segment over 65, there's a general expectation that the population will increase by over 40%. Well, if you look at the table, table 1.8, this is just for Jones County. And if you look at age 55 and above and add up those numbers in the 2010 column, you'll total 7,721. So in 2010, there was roughly 7,721 people over the age of 55 in Jones County. By 2050, that number will grow to 16,040 people. That's a 108% increase. And if you reach out and talk to people like Meals on Wheels or the other services that are available for seniors that are provided by the Middle Georgia Regional Commission, they will tell you that they do not have the resources to accommodate that kind of growth. They can't even accommodate the growth that is currently in the Middle Georgia region. Their Meals on Wheels program is not accepting new applications. Their weatherization program has no funding. So this phenomenon of a very rapid aging population is not just something that's going to impact Jones County. It's going to impact the whole Middle Georgia region. And they don't have the resources to help out for seniors that have health issues or they need food or they need affordable housing. There's no program that's going to be able to assist them as the population grows older in these next 30 years. It just so happens this came up in my news feed at the bottom. There was a publication, Bloomberg, that put out this article March 27th, 2019, so just a few days ago. It says, half of older Americans have nothing in retirement savings. They have not saved any money for retirement, half of them. So the need for affordable housing, you've got a big growth in population among people over age 55, and very few of them have put aside the money it's going to take for them to retire. So what we're going to have is older people that continue in the workforce, but at a rate that will not allow them to receive housing. If you flip over the page, there's a short paragraph that just talks a little bit about the specific, some specific aspects of the project. We can allow tenants that earn up to 80% of the median income for the local area to live at this community. So for a household of 2 people, that's around $34,500. 28 of the apartments will be 1 bedroom, and 36 of the apartments will be 2 bedrooms. Base rental rents will start at around $365 for a 1 bedroom apartment and approximately $435 for a 2 bedroom apartment. If you recall, on the other page, table 3.4, it highlighted the housing costs for the Middle Georgia region. And if you look, Jones County is the second highest, second most expensive county in the Middle Georgia region when it comes to housing costs. And we're looking at $812, and the only other county in this whole table that has more expensive housing is Houston County at $818. So they have a $6 premium for their housing. So when you compare that number of $800 versus this $365, you can see how affordable housing could help these seniors find a place to live that they can afford. The total cost of this project will exceed $11 million, and it will provide a substantial increase in your tax base. The 2018 assessed value for the entire 42-acre parcel was only $105,000. So you should see a substantial increase in revenue every year from property taxes. Every apartment will be built with brick exteriors and interior finishes that are attractive and durable. We'll have sustainable design features that will be incorporated into the design of the project, which what that means is we're going to adhere to this standard. It's called Earthcraft Multifamily. And they provide a lot of requirements that govern how the project will be built. And then we'll have a third party come in and inspect and do energy and efficiency testing of these units to make sure that we've met those guidelines before they'll even give us the certification. So this won't be just something that's thrown up. It'll be built to a specific standard that ensures that they're energy efficient and will reduce the utility cost for the residents that live there. We'll also not only provide housing, but we'll have a targeted health initiative. So we'll have a clinical exam room in the community room that will provide those tenants. What we'll do is we'll partner with a local health provider, and that health provider will do health screens and also provide monthly educational courses about the benefits of preventative health care and wellness. So we'll also have a community garden, and it won't just be, a patch of dirt that we say, hey, go throw some seeds down and grow some fruits and vegetables. It'll be a fully accessible community garden. It'll be enclosed with a fence. There'll be money set aside for tools, equipment, seeds for the duration of this project. Not to mention those health courses we talked about and that wellness program we talked about, that will be fully funded by the developer for the next 15 years. So those tenants won't pay a single dollar to attend those courses or to receive the health screens. At the last meeting, there were some questions about different items like school overcrowding, increased crime, Section 8, decrease in property values, and increased traffic. And so I've tried to address each of those concerns with a short paragraph to let you know that school overcrowding won't be an issue because there will be no children that will be eligible to live with grandparents who are tenants at the community. Concerns about increased crime. We screen every application. We have a management company in-house that will do credit checks, landlord verifications, and criminal background checks. So we will make sure that the people that live there deserve to live there. If they cause problems, we'll be the first one to know about it, and they'll be gone quickly. This is not a Section 8 development. We don't have any subsidies from Section 8 attached to it. It's fully tax credit. Concerns about property values. You hear this a lot. Hey, look, when this property's built, it's going to decrease the value of my single family home. But there have been numerous studies that have looked into that specific issue, and none of them had found that with a well-managed, affordable community next door, there was any impact to housing costs. Concerns about traffic. Seniors just tend to use less vehicles, especially during peak hours. And there's a trip generation manual that's is published by the Institute of Traffic Engineers, and they even have trip generations that are a quarter of what single-family homes use during peak hours of the day. So traffic should not be a concern whatsoever. One other issue that just came to my mind, and I forgot to put it on here, was they said that there would be some kind of impact to the creek that's behind this development. But I mean, we're a good 200 feet from the creek. There will be no impact to the creek. We will have environmental studies and erosion control persons that are monitoring those aspects of the project to make sure that that's not an issue. If there's any other questions I can help you with, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions from the board? I'm curious. You've highlighted these other areas that are available for multifamily. Why wouldn't you consider one of those over trying to?
That's a great question. So one issue that we found when looking for property in Jones County is not all those parcels, even though they have multifamily zoning, have access to sewer. So actually the majority of those parcels do not have sewer. And that was one of the factors that prevented us from pursuing those other properties.
Yeah. My second part of that is you still don't have sewer because the city assured me that there was no sewer capacity for a multifamily.
I met with the city council, and us and another developer both met at the same time and asked about sewer capacity. And the response I received was that they have not updated the allocations for sewer capacity that were granted 10 years ago. So when construction was booming in 2008, a lot of sewer capacity was allocated to these different projects, but they were never built. And so what they're doing now is they're trying to go back and find out if there's any capacity that can be reallocated to other projects. They also mentioned that there was a grant that would be, a decision would be made at the end of the month that would provide additional sewer capacity. They said at that specific time they could not, they did not have the sewer capacity, but they said that that was subject to change, and we would just need to continue that discussion as they looked into both of those things.
And I think it was last week or the week before I talked with them, and that was brought up as far as, no sewer capacity. And I know they're in the process of applying for a grant. It'd be great if they'd consider selling the county some sewer access. I think that would help their cause a lot to help fund their project if we could work together the community and sell the county some sewer access. And we're working hard to make sure we keep them in water. And
that's right. I heard y'all supply like 50% of their water.
It would be great if they would consider working with the county on that.
But what makes this property different is there's actually a sanitary sewer line that runs, within 50 feet of that closest building. Mm-hmm. So if there is capacity, we'll be able to tie into it, whereas some of these other parcels, they're just so far that extending that sewer line to another area would be cost prohibitive.
All right. Any more questions from the board?
Because it happened just before we come on board, does anybody remember when we built the senior center, what we did on talking about taxes then? Because I remember some discussions about the cost approach on that, $6 or $7 million worth of taxes, and we wasn't getting that value at the end of the day. Does that ring a bell with anybody? I just remember us talking about that was using a different approach to assess the values on it. It might be something we need to ask our tax assessor on, because I think
whatever methodology you have for assessing taxes, that's the value we'll pay.
Are you referring to our senior center, or are you referring to
the one behind Dairy Queen? Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm a bit excited about it. When I heard the initial concerns of the constituents, without question, we have to, be leery or concerned about it. The idea that it's now 55 plus sits well with me. In District 4, I come across seniors often that in their particular financial predicament, much as the Bloomberg study elicits or responds to, they can't afford the houses that they're in, or the taxes, or the services. And some that are now widowed are finding it difficult. And one client in particular has to give up her house because she cannot afford it. And this may be, a great alternative. I actually shared it with my uncle, and he's actually a tenant of mine, and he said, well, I might be moving out. And I said, no, that's okay, because I think their amenities are going to be better than mine. I don't have a garden or great opportunities, and I'm definitely not located in Gray. And I think that adds value for our senior community about safety, proximity to shopping, and things of that nature. So you look like a good community partner, and I hope that you will continue to do so.
You made me think of something else. Seniors, affordability is a very big concern for them when they're looking for housing, but so is, maintenance of a home. Like, some seniors aren't capable of keeping up with maintenance as they grow older, not just house maintenance, but yard maintenance. I mean, if the average size lot in Jones County is 1 acre, that's a lot to take care of. I mean, I only have a half acre, and it's a lot on me every week taking care of that. So I can just imagine what they go through.
Yeah.
Probably want to call
Yeah,
back over
okay.
to the other side.
Sure.
so-
Okay.
One more legal question, though, Chairman, if you don't mind. Since it was sent to planning and zoning as R3, I guess it is, with no condition on 55 and up, and I saw where there were some discussions about that. Is there any requirement to go back to planning and zoning because it's changing to a stipulation? I mean, I can appreciate the 55 and up. I think that is a very big need in our community, and I think that might alleviate some of the fears of some of the surrounding residents. I don't want to speak for them, but I do think that's a positive for it.
No, because it's not an actual change to their request. It's just stipulation that you all are placing on the granting of their request. So it would not have to go back through. But we've given you 20 minutes,
Sure.
and so I just want a chance for the
Sure.
the
Opposed. Go.
opposing side
you for your time.
and then you can come back up for any.
Who would like to start tonight on the opposing side?
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Nobles, and I'm here tonight to oppose the proposed rezoning. My family owns a tract of land to the northeast of this parcel. We farm there, I have pastures there. We have a substantial border that is common with the Reams property. We object on 3 bases. First, this is an impermissible spot zoning. Secondly, it is a speculative zoning, an attempt to speculatively rezone this property. And third, it's incompatible with the neighborhood. First, with respect to spot zoning, what the applicant is attempting to do here is to plop an apartment complex down in the middle of a single-family residential homes. We have single-family residential homes in Turner Woods, developed in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and I guess some of those folks are here tonight. They worked hard to build their homes and maintain their homes. Across the road, we have what we call the small sawmill quarters, single-family homes going back probably to the 1940s. And the people there have worked hard to develop and own their homes, maintain those homes. And this is a incompatible use with those. It's a spot zoning, dropping an apartment complex in the middle of single-family residential and commercial. The applicant argues, well, you've got commercial there, then a lot of things could happen on the commercial property. Well, we have a zoning code. Apartments are not commercial, commercial's not apartments. So those are distinct in our zoning code, and we need to respect that. It's speculative. It's speculative because there's no current sewage treatment capacity. My understanding from talking with folks with City Council is that the current plant is operating at or near capacity. And yes, it may be expanded in the future, but it's not expanded now. So where does that stand? Well, my understanding is today that project could not be built. And then there's a question about where does the sewage treatment capacity go to in the future? That is a small, discrete creek. Whenever it's wet, has a very high flow. When it's low, it's a trickle. And if there is a sewage upset in a dry season, it will be devastating to that creek. But the city of Gray's done a masterful job of managing its treatment plant and protecting the creek. We've done everything we can. We bordered the creek a good ways down. We've done everything we can to protect the creek, and our neighbors on the other side of the creek do the same. So it's more than just the runoff from this project. It goes to the essence of the issue of treatment capacity, because the treatment plant is discharging into that creek. And then finally, it's incompatible with the neighborhood. You know, we've got an incompatible proposed use, single-family homes. We've got more traffic. We've got different kinds of traffic. We've got lighting. We've got commercial traffic that is being proposed to be dumped into this community. And with that, I urge that you vote against the proposal and tonight. Thank you.
Thank you much. Next.
I'm nowhere near as well spoken as he is, so you just bear with me. I am Andy Walter, and I put together the petition. I went around door to door to my neighbors and people who live in the neighborhood to ask them if they desired to have this apartment complex in it, and their response was no, absolutely not. The reason is because, like we've already spoken about, the traffic flow in there. Well, it's only going to be a 55 or older neighborhood. Okay, well, at the last planning and zoning meeting, he already stated that we have a public transportation. Well, that means the public transportation is going to be coming in to pick people up and take them out to shop and bring them back home. If it's 55 years or older, you're going to have possibility where you'll have medical care, and your medical care will be coming in and throughout the neighborhood. The 55 and older people still are going to have visitors come through and come and see them, hopefully. I hope when I'm 55, someone comes and sees me. He stated that it's going to be a commercial area. Jones County is a family, so if there's going to be a commercial to come into that neighborhood, and like a liquor store, I don't even think a liquor store can come into the city of Gray. And if it's a commercial dwelling or commercial place, then they're going to have customers. And like I said before, Jones County is a family, and if we have a commercial area in the neighborhood and we don't, particularly desire it to be there, we're not going to shop there because we're a family of Jones County. He said that it's $34,500 income or less. There again, that's low income housing. That's without a doubt low income housing. You can call it what you want to call it. He stated, before he said it wasn't a 55 or older neighborhood. Now he's saying it is. It seems to me he'll say whatever it takes to get this thing passed, and that's dangerous. We don't desire that kind of business in Jones County. And he also stated that he'll be the first to know if there's someone there or there's a problem there. That's a bold-faced lie. We live there. We're going to know about it way before he does, because we live there every single day. We're going to be the ones that know if it's a problem.
I'm sorry. Last name is Waters? Waldrop. Okay, thank you.
All right. Next, Valerie, come forward.
Okay.
Come on.
I can't talk to you.
That's fine. If you
The oldest person here, and he's been talking about what older people do. Older people do what y'all do. I mean, just because we're old don't mean we have a different code of things. I know this fellow right here. He's smiling at me because he knows how old I am. But anyway, we want to stay in our homes. We don't want to have to move. And if all of this takes place, you're going to see a lot of people with their signs up. And it's going to say, for sale, for sale. And that's just going to hurt us. We've been there forever. We'd like to stay there a little longer. But if y'all do this, I don't see how I can stay there. I like to get out and walk. I can walk all up the street and never worry about cars or anything like that. But I'm sure that when all this, that fellow there said about it, we're going to all have to watch our cars. We're going to have to watch everything. So it's just going to be disturbing the whole place down there. And anybody that don't think that, they don't know where Pinewood Drive is. I mean, we've got people like me and other people down there that we've been there forever. Ever since when I first moved down there, we had about 10 houses. Now, I don't know how many we got, but we got a lot of houses now. And we just do not want any more apartments. So, thank you.
Ma'am, real quick, we need to get your name
Nell Bowden,
and address. Do you need an address too?
215 Pinewood Drive.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Bowden. Anyone else? You got an opportunity to come forward if anybody else would like to come forward.
In opposition.
In opposition.
Jeff Collins. I own property south on Villawood Drive, and it's south on the creek. I got about, I don't know, probably 900 foot of Wolf Creek that runs through my property, and I've got concerns about the overflow. I've got concerns about sewage because anything that goes through the plant obviously gets shot down my way. So my concerns are that, and any more capacity on that thing obviously is a concern. I grew up in Gray, and that was my neighborhood growing up. So it's a little sentimental to me. I think the traffic concerns, all the other issues that's been, brought up. I'm on board with those. So that's about all I got. Jeff Collins. Got it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Collins. Anyone else in opposition?
John Wood. I'm a business owner in the city and also sit on the board of tax assessors. I have a question about the other properties, and I know this will be used the same way in evaluating property taxes and assessments. I'm not going to call the names of other properties, but there's been other projects where, say, $6.5 million was spent on the project. First year, you're going to get that tax. After a couple years of income is received, they will file an appeal, and they will want to use the income approach for the property, and it's probably going to be at a third, and of course the county's going to come back and say no, so it becomes a battle. And in the end, you have to use the income that comes through that property. So you're going to provide the services up here, but you're going to get the taxes for those here. The other taxpayers usually have to make up the difference. Puts a burden on everybody else. So just something to think about.
Is that what you were talking about, Mr. Kitchen?
I think that happened, is what we're talking about at the one behind Dairy Queen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
there's several
tax
value.
Right.
It happened there behind Dairy Queen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Dallas, you have to use the income approach. So let's just use another property in the city that's new. It's going to pay, it's not subsidized, it's full rent. They're paying up here. You're still providing the same services for that new that's already opening up. But now, if this one gets approved, you're going to be collecting taxes down here, but still having to give the services for up here. So it's just something to think about financially.
All right. Thank you very much. Anyone else in opposition? If none, sir, have you got anything else you'd say before I bring it for decision of the board?
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to just address 4 points that were brought up. I guess we can start with property taxes. The current assessed value of that property is $150,000. That's what they value that 40-acre tract right now. So whatever approach you use, it will result in a much higher tax value than what it's currently assessed at. There was a point that was brought up about the project being, or the community being, incompatible with the existing neighborhood. I just want to remind you that, this whole 40-acre parcel is currently zoned commercial. If there was an argument for being incompatible, I think commercial zoning would be much more incompatible than what we're proposing. Not to mention that these two lots here have multifamily housing currently located on them, They're directly adjacent to Pinewood Drive, so I wanted to point that out. There was an argument about speculative zoning because sewer capacity wasn't yet identified. But sewer capacity is never going to be identified unless you ask for it. It's not like they're going to be just handing out sewer capacity without someone making a request for it. So it's kind of the cart before the horse argument. If we wait till sewer capacity to get there, we'll never have new growth or new development. And then the last argument was about spot zoning. Spot zoning is special treatment, and it's more commonly found when you put commercial zoning in a residential district, kind of like what was done in 2001 in this parcel. When you have a use that's consistent with a future land use plan, like multifamily in a suburban residential district, that argument goes away. So those are my thoughts.
All right. Thank you. I'd say that the $150,000 tax value you're talking about now, though, the tax on the resources are much lower. So when you compare it to the taxes you're going to get, you also got to talk about roads and sewer and infrastructure and police and fire and rescue and all that comes out of our taxes too. Yeah,
that's a good point.
So trees right now don't tax the resources very much.
Sure, that's a great point. So seniors don't use school services, but they're going to be assessed school taxes. As far as there being only one income or one approach to valuing property, that's not true. There's three approaches. Which approach the community chooses is up to the community. We don't determine how we pay the property taxes. We receive the value and we pay the tax. So if the methodology, we'll follow whatever methodology the county has, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. And if that's a problem, then maybe we need to look at the methodology for assessing taxes.
I mean, I would argue, Chairman, that I don't think it's the methodology. I think it's what you build. I think the law dictates what you assess the taxes at based on whether it's a 150 occupant senior home or whether it's 150 individual residences.
Well, there's a valuation method called replacement value, and that could be used. So if income approach provides an artificially low tax value, then you could use replacement value, which would be the cost of the project, how much it would cost to replace those sticks and bricks. And that should make it very similar to any other apartment complex that we're building in the community.
Any more discussion or questions? I'll entertain a motion at this time.
How are we going to address, or have we addressed the sewer issue? Or is that even?
I mean, as of 2 weeks ago, the city said it's not happening.
Well, there's also the city won't, as far as I know, won't offer sewer unless it's annexed into the city, right?
Right.
Well, wait, that's not true either. I met with the city attorney, and there's two ways that you can receive sewer. A sewer allocation. The first way is if you're contiguous to other city property, then annexation is required. If you're non-contiguous to other city property, then you can sign an agreement that just says that once an adjacent parcel or a contiguous parcel is in the city, then you would be required to annex. So those are the two approaches, and we're not contiguous to the city property at this time, so we should be able to just sign the agreement that allows us to annex at a future point.
But then again, puts us on notice that at any point in time when that becomes contiguous property, it doesn't become county property anymore, it's city property. And I've voiced my opinion on that in the past, Chairman. I don't agree with automatic annexation to get services, and I got a problem with that. So.
Anything else? Okay. Open for a motion at this time. I'm sorry? Tim, anything else? Refer to findings of the planning and zone board.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion we deny the rezoning request.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any conversation? I'd like to say something. I've got to admit, I got several phone calls on this project, on several projects like this. And I also urge these people to be looking at areas that were already zoned for this, that were in the long-range plan for the county. I'm looking now, and I do see properties that, I don't know if it can be bought or not, but very easily gravity feed to a future sewer site. This neighborhood, I'm very aware of the property. All the roads that are on this property I built, that concrete plant I built. You know, I know exactly how it lays in the neighborhood and how it backs up each one of these homes and whatnot. But that said, I just felt like that a parcel that was already zoned would be your biggest hurdle, and it would take that hurdle away from you, and then working on sewer capacity would be your next.
I agree with you, sir. I went and met with Frank Pitts at the city, and we actually rode around all those parcels to see if we could come across one that had sewer. The ones that were accessible to sewer, the landowners weren't interested in selling. So I've kind of got, you know, I'm in a tight spot.
Sure, I understand. But that's just my thoughts as far as, you know, I asked you earlier, why not one of these other parcels?
I just want you to know that, you know, I did make that effort. I tried to get out there and beat the bushes and do the best I could.
Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would just say that I'm a little concerned. I mean, I understand the concerns of citizens in the neighborhood. I've been victim to that as well. But when I think about the aging population that we have, that is a legitimate concern. I've experienced it. I see it. And it may be because I'm in District 4, where our income levels are just a little bit different. And every time we make a decision, whether it's a tax decision or water increase, we always talk about affordability and whether or not people can manage the expense or the change that's about to happen. And this is one of those opportunities where you get to manage it. I hate that this is not the right location, and I wish we did a better job of identifying those locations up front, save these folks a lot of money, because I think there is a need without question. And at some point when we become seniors and some of us can't afford to live in some of these locations, we'll wish that this has happened. I hope we can find some places that have sewer access and that are amenable to senior living, because we do know that it's a real crisis. So I hope that at some point we're able to accomplish that.
Well spoken, Mr. Martin. Thank you.
All right. I agree that there's a need there, and I also agree that it's not the right place. I would love to see it somewhere already zoned with some potential for sewer in it, because there's definitely a need, and it's a good plan. And so I hope that it comes to light.
Anything else? All in favor?
Oh, shoot, opposed, sorry.
I'm sorry?
I'm opposed.
Okay.
4-1.
4-1.
Thank you. Grab those votes.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, on the back of Clifton Ridge, where they have that big space, is that a fit at all?
I'll have to look at what Clifton Ridge is doing.
When you get a chance, look at Clifton Ridge Middle School, and there's a subdivision back there, and there's a bunch of land back there.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Moving forward tonight, we got a consent agenda and approval for the minutes. We got the third Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. Everybody had an opportunity to look at it. If so, I need approval of that.
So moved, Chairman.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. We've already done our visitors. We got Miss Jennifer Gay and Tammy Childress of Grub and Stuff donation to Highway 49 Playground. Are they here tonight? There we go.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Gay. This is Tammy Childress. About a month ago, we opened up a new restaurant here in Jones County. And on that day, we had a car show, we had vendors, we raised some money and we want to donate it to the Jones County Recreational Department for Highway 49 playground.
Oh, thank you very much.
We're donating $500.
Awesome.
And I want to thank Mr. Daylon. He has been to the restaurant. He has helped sponsor. He has done a great job.
All right, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Was it made after you?
What's the name of the restaurant?
All right,
What's the name of the
let's go,
restaurant?
move on to new
Grub
business tonight.
and
All right,
stuff.
we've got the 2000 audit review with David Irwin and Justin Johnson of Malden and Jenkins. You didn't know you were going to get to sit through a long one tonight, did you?
I'm surprised nobody wanted to hear the audit. Everybody left. It's exciting stuff. Come on now.
You thought that's what they were here for?
That's right, I did. It's amazing how often that happens. You know, it'll be a full house by the time I come up to speak. There's nobody here. But anyway, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see you all again. My name's David Irwin. I was with Malden Jenkins. I was the partner who oversaw this year's audit. The county's financial statements, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all this evening to discuss with you the results of this year's audit. I believe you received two documents, one of which are the financial statements themselves. The other, much smaller, thinner document is something that we call our auditor's discussion analysis. This is an internal document that we prepare solely for your benefit. It gives you some general information on who we are as a firm. It also summarizes what I'll be discussing with you all here this evening. And it gives you a synopsis of some accounting standards that we implement in the upcoming years. That being said, you know, as I've done in the past, I'm going to quickly give you a brief walk through the financial statements. So if you have those available, that'd be great. If all you have is AD&A, I would suggest you turn to pages 5 through 10. That has the information of what I'll be discussing. Now, the financial statements themselves are the responsibility of county's management and members of the board. As your auditor, our responsibility is to issue an opinion on these statements. We conduct our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards and governmental auditing standards, and I'm happy to say that we're issuing a clean or unmodified opinion on this year's report. Now, this is what you want. What this means is that, in our opinion, the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. In addition to the clean opinion, we don't have any audit findings to report to you all this year. And again, an audit finding in its simplest term is when we find a deficiency in internal control over financial reporting. In other words, proper internal controls are not in place that would have either detected a misstatement or it would have prevented a misstatement from occurring to begin with. And without good, solid, sound internal controls, the financial statements, then result could be the financial statements are incorrect or misstated. So again, we had no such audit findings on this year's audit, and I think this is the second year in a row that we've had no findings. You know, and with all the new accounting standards that are constantly being implemented and all the activity that you all have going on in the county, it really makes it all that more impressive when I can come and speak to a board and say that we have no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. So congratulations to you all on that. You know, I think I've said this to you all before, but I am a firm believer that good news is worth repeating. It really speaks volumes about the hard work done by your staff. You all have a great team here. Jason and Levita, they've always been very receptive to any suggestions we've had, and always seem to look for ways to improve the financial reporting process. You know, if something comes up during the year, Levita will call us. She calls us often because she wants to make sure that these questions are addressed now, and you know, and not wait until the audit begins to address any problems. And you know, with that constant communication throughout the year, the end result is really a timely and efficient audit. So again, just want to thank them for their hard work this year, and we've certainly appreciated working with them. Now, again, just to give you a brief overview of the financial statements. Again, if you have the financial statements, if you would turn to page 4, the financial statements, page 4 is something called a management discussion analysis, otherwise known as an MD&A. This is a pretty thick document, it's about 80 or 90 pages. If you read only one section of the report, I would strongly encourage you to read the MD&A. It's about 10 or so pages long. It gives you a good eye. It's prepared by management, and it summarizes the basic financial statements. And it also gives the reader an analytical overview of the financial activities that occur throughout the year. In addition, there's quite a bit of comparative information in there, meaning this section has financial information for both 2018 and 2017. And to me, that really adds a lot of value to the reader. You know, when you have the comparative information right there to last year's information, right beside the current year information, it gives you a much better idea of the good, the bad, and the ugly of what transpired during the year. So, again, if you can, please take the time to read through the MD&A. Again, if you have the financial statements, if you would turn to page 14, the county's financial statements are broken up into three different parts. Page 14 is the first component, which is the government-wide financial statements. The government-wide financial statements, they provide a broad view of the county's operations in a manner similar to what you would see in a private sector business. Honestly, the only time you will see the county's financial activities presented this way is in the financial statements. You know, in the day-to-day operations of the county, you're looking at the individual funds, which I'll talk about here shortly. But as you can see in this section, all the county's funds are combined into one or two sections, either governmental activities or business type activities. This statement also provides information about the county's discrete represented component unit, which is the Jones County Board of Health. Again, page 14 is the statement of net position, otherwise known as the balance sheet. As of August 31st, the county had total assets and deferred outflows of resources of around $57.1 million. And that's an increase of around $2.5 million compared to prior year. The majority of your assets are your capital assets. What I mean by that, that's the land, the building, the infrastructure, the machinery, equipment that are owned by you all. County had total liabilities and deferred inflows of resources around $14 million. That's an increase of around $400,000 compared to prior year. Of your total liabilities, around 10.6 are long-term in nature, meaning they are not due within the next fiscal year. The county ended the year with a net position of $43 million, and that's shown midway down on page 15, and that's an increase of around $2.1 million from prior year. The second component of the county's financial statements are the fund level statements. And the fund level statements provide, they go into a little more detail than that, the government-wide statements. And when you think about the county's funds, you know, of primary interest to you all is the general fund. That's the main operating fund of the county, and therefore that's where the majority of your revenues are received and your funds are expended. Page 18 and 19 shows the balance sheet of the governmental funds. The general fund ended the year with total assets around $7.8 million and total liabilities and deferred inflows of resources around $542,000. And that resulted in an ending fund balance of the general fund of around $7.8 million. And that's an increase of around $1.5 million compared to prior year. In the document that you all do have, the all discussion analysis, there's a chart on page 7 that shows the fund balance history over the last 5 years. So you can see it goes back to 2014, it was around $5.2 million. It dipped some in 2015, but it slowly made its way back. So it was a good year, needless to say, for the fund to have an ending fund balance of $7.2 million. And when I talk about fund balance, you know, that's not what you have in the form of cash at the end of the year to spend as you see fit. You know, unfortunately, that's not the case. Fund balance is merely the difference between assets and liabilities, only a portion of which is cash on hand. Another thing to keep in mind is that on average, the general fund incurs around $1.5 million in expenditures per month. So while you all do have a solid fund balance as of year end, you know, you have around 4.5 months of available fund balance. It's a strong fund balance for the county your size, but it's necessary. It's needed to fund the expenditures of the general fund from September through mid-November before your property tax revenue comes in. So again, if I'm looking at this, you all have a good strong fund balance as of year end. A couple other charts on page 6 and 7 are your general fund revenues and expenditures for the year. Total revenues for the general fund were around $19 million this year. That's around $1 million higher than it was in the prior year. As you can look on the chart, as you would expect, the majority of your revenues are derived from taxes, which is approximately $15.6 million this year. Some other significant revenue sources worth mentioning. You all had charges for services around $1.3 million and intergovernmental revenue of around $1.5 million. The chart on page 7 shows you the general fund expenditures for the year, which is around $17.5 million. That's an increase of around $800,000 compared to prior year. Once again, when you're looking at your expenditures, no surprise, public safety is a huge cost for you all, as it is every local government. Around $5.7 million in public safety that you all had, $4.1 million in public works, and $3.8 million for general government. And again, the end result was an increase in your fund balance for your general fund of $1.5 million for the year. One other fund I do want to briefly mention is your enterprise fund, your water sewer fund. Your water sewer fund, enterprise funds, their goal is to be run like a business. You know, they're supposed to be self-sufficient. They're supposed to, the goal is to have generate operating revenues sufficient to cover your operating expenses. And I'm happy to report that you all did have operating income this year in the water sewer fund, I think of around $285,000. And if you look at the chart on page 8, again, this only goes back 5 years, but this is the first year over the past 5 years that we've actually generated operating income in the water sewer fund. And to make things a little better, included in operating expenses is depreciation of your capital assets, which is a non-cash item. And that was around $685,000. So when you back out depreciation expense from your expenses, since that is a non-cash item, you all actually generated operating cash flows of around $1 million in your water sewer fund this year. So again, that's definitely worth mentioning. And to me, that chart on page 8 really speaks volumes. You all are generated, actually have an operating income this year instead of that loss. So the third component of the county's financial statements are the footnotes. There really weren't any changes this year. So unless anybody has any specific questions, I won't go into detail on those. One last thing I do want to mention, you all were required to have a single audit this year. That's a compliance audit that is required when an entity expends over $750,000 in federal funds for the year. I believe you all had around $1.3 million of federal expenditures this year. As was the case with the financial audit, we are issuing a clean or unmodified opinion on the single audit. And we also have no audit findings to report to you all on the single audit. So again, good news all around. So that concludes my presentation. You know, as you can see and look at these financial statements, there's quite a bit of information in here. What I've tried to do is just hit the highlights, what I think is of most importance to you all. That being said, if anybody has any questions or anything that I didn't touch base on or anything that I did for that matter, I'll be happy to address those. But again, just want to thank your staff for another great audit and a job well done. It's always nice to be able to talk to a board and say we're issuing a clean opinion with no audit findings. So, but again, we certainly appreciate the opportunity to be a service to you all and look forward to working in the future.
We thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Jeffrey, you're going to frame Jade, aren't you?
Thank you, Levita.
Oh, yeah. We thank everybody. Like I said, the entire county takes credit for this. Department heads, finance, water department, everybody. All right, let's move forward. We're not going to hit my points. I think Mr. Tommy's going to win. I think it. Was it yours? Okay. All right, moving on. Beer and wine application for Dinesh N. Patel for 49er Investment LLC located at 2440 Sherland Drive. If you.
Chairman, board members, the recommendation would be to approve the beer and wine license.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second. For more discussion? None? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed. All right, 4-1. All right. Let's see, approval for advertising for request for proposal for RFP for transit services. Who's doing that one?
I can do it, sure. The transit system is, of course, funded by the federal government, and we are required to advertise for competitive bid. We have used Middle Georgia Community Action Agency since about 1996.
Wow.
And the Department of Transportation is recommending this year, when we go out for bid, that we use either trips, hours, or miles, preferably a firm fixed service hour rate to cover the administrative costs and the service hours generated from the demand. This is a totally new bottle of wax. The effective date for the contract is July 1, which puts us in a little bit of a time restraint. I asked for approval, of course, to go out for requests for proposals. I also asked for, that you give me approval to work with Mr. Risner and Levita, Ms. Crutchfield. Because of the changes in scope, I'd like their expertise as well before we actually do the request for proposals.
Another thing I want to ask, Jason, was this the group, I guess, Community Action Agency, that was the seniors was having a problem with? I guess the transportation wasn't reliable, the air was going out, and
Yeah, we've had this this company perform these services for a good many years, so it would have been the same group.
So I just want to make sure that whoever we do decide to work with, that we don't run into a lot of those same issues that the seniors gave me about the air not working, not on time, and just not having the space for.
Now, hopefully, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when that came up, it was not Community Action Agency. It was the company that was doing.
Senior citizen.
And I don't know. I just want to make sure that they provide us a good quality service. That's all. Just to make sure they provide good
I
quality.
cannot remember the name of the company, but it was not Community Action Agency.
Good.
I think it was the one handling something to do with, well, it wasn't DHR trips. But it's been a while back, so I can't remember the name of the company or the exact details, but I will respond and make sure that it's not Community Action. Actually, I don't know problems that we've had with Community Action Agency as far as service.
Good. Like I said, I just know the seniors expressed some concerns. I want to make sure that we provide good quality service to the seniors. So that was it.
Just out of curiosity, excuse me, I know at a meeting, Macon was talking about the Transportation Authority expanding their routes. Is that something that would be taken into consideration?
That'd be huge.
Just out of curiosity. I mean,
It's going to be based on the last 5 years. That's the only way we can put the data out there for bids.
right.
Now, of course, if they expand the routes, that's all the better.
Okay.
And that's something that probably needs to happen anyway, because our routes, we don't have a lot of them.
Right. And I know they express interest. So hopefully we can send this over to them as well to see if there's any interest.
Yeah, they definitely expressed interest.
All right, Ms. Marge has asked for this permission to go out for RFP. I need a motion.
I made a motion that she go out for the RFP with the assistance of Jason and Miss Levita Crutchfield.
Second.
Second. Any more discussion? None. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Water rate study. We talked about this in our work session, and I guess we need to give Jeffrey and his department the opportunity the permission to go through and research our water rates to make sure we're where we need to be and fair with all parties. So,
Chairman, I ask that we table that until we can give them time to get some study and some information, bring it back to us.
okay.
Second.
All right. That said, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it on the table. Approval to go out for bid on the well. We also talked about this in our work session.
Move that we go out for bid on the well.
That would be on Henderson.
Henderson, I know you mentioned Masseyville, but if.
We'll get one at a time and work away.
Sure.
We got the money for it, so let's.
Second.
Any more discussion?
I would say if there's an economies of scale where we can save some money.
Yeah, I'm all for it, but let's get one at a time. I like writing good checks. Vita said we can write this one. So with all that said, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. I think going out for a bid for water meters, I think we're going to put that on hold until we get these wells done. We can make do with what we got at this point, can't we, Jerry? And we'll table the, I need a motion to table.
Motion to table bid for meters, Chairman.
All in favor, aye? I got this lady keeping me straight over.
I gotta have some discussion on that, though.
Okay, go ahead, discussion.
Thank you. How many meters are we away from being complete? 2,000.
2,000 in and 2,000 to go.
Right, because we've been working on these meters for way too long, and that's part of the revenue increase that we've experienced. So
we gotta find the money. They're working on it.
the meters end up paying for themselves. So I'm just going to say, with the positive revenue growth and the construction account, et cetera, that we should at least put another 1,000 in.
Well, they can find the money. Like I said, there's a rainbow going over that direction right now. You can see it on page 8. It's all up right now.
Okay.
Jeff, do you think we can have a plan at the next meeting of when we think we can start?
Sure.
Moving to the next 1,000 or so?
Well, we all in favor of tabling the water meter?
Opposed.
All right, 4-1.
All right, we had a motion and a second.
To the
Motion
table.
Table.
Table. Ashley's keeping straight over here.
We had an original motion by Commissioner Kitchens and then a second by Commissioner Robertson.
To table.
And then y'all just
Oh, the amendment probably is to look at the 1,000. Does that?
Yeah.
You want to table it?
Well, I can't amend the table, so
Right.
that was just a administrative direction by the county attorney, administrator or county attorney.
Or you don't have any old business tonight. We're almost gonna hit somebody's 7:15 mark. Jeffrey, department head?
I just appreciate all your support.
We appreciate you and your department's hard work. Mr. Graham?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Mr. Risner?
Real quick, I'll just mention, we had originally planned to reopen the library yesterday. We've just had a few sort of last minute things that we're working through now. The ribbon cutting is still planned for Thursday morning, and a reopen date to be determined and to be announced very soon. So I think everybody's really going to like what they see when they get a chance to step inside, and it's really turned out nice. So
great.
More to come on that.
More to come. Ms. Tyson, anything?
Nothing tonight.
All right. Any citizens tonight like to come forward? Citizens like to come forward?
I know, that ain't me.
You know, that's in there.
Ms. Tyson, Brody, well, I mean, it's all one long
I
thing.
knew he was talking to me. Even though there's two of us up here.
There's a long line that you read it, you know. Road, you know,
It's on that branch.
It's on the branch.
Branch. All right, Commissioner Pitts, you want to start us off tonight?
Yeah, I'd be glad to, Chairman. I think something that was brought up tonight is maybe worth discussion on the ways that we evaluate properties, you know, about the income versus the replacement value. So it'll be interesting to learn. I mean, is this something we need to revisit about? I see some ears peeking up over there. It was just brought up, so I thought it was pretty interesting just to hear, you know, the other options, and it's just something worth looking into. Another thing that I do want to get consent from the board. I've been working with the Chamber and the Department of Labor to host an interview resume seminar on May the 7th. Right now, there's a lot of jobs, well, some good jobs coming to Macon. Amber had a hiring event today, and I'm sure Irvin's doing hiring, Kumo, and hopefully Amazon will announce the date soon. And I just want to make it possible so the residents in Jones County can have an opportunity to maybe apply for a better job if that's what they strive for. So if I can get consent from the board, I'd love to put the Board of Commissioners seal on the flyer that'll go out with the Chamber, Department of Labor, and the Board of Commissioners, just supporting the idea of having an interview resume class at the Chamber on May the 7th. Cool. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
And that's all I got, Chairman.
Mr. Kitchens?
I know Levita's not here. Hopefully she'll see it. We'll tell her in person. But I know all of our employees and all of our staff is doing such a great job, and it shows not only in our water and sewer fund, but in our general fund. The last few years, we just, you know, to me, that's just proof that we're doing things right, and efficiencies and transparencies and accountabilities. That's what we all talked about. That's all what we're all doing. And Jeffrey, on the water and sewer side, you know, kudos the first year that we actually operated it like a business, like it should, and actually, you know, getting some revenue off of it. And Levita holding our feet and everybody else's feet to the fire and what she does. She does an amazing job with a very small staff, and we see her every day, how hard she works at keeping us in line. And I really believe that a lot of a lot of this audit is directly, because of her. And, so I just want to let her know and all the staff know how much we appreciate it. It makes us look good. It makes life easier for us and on the residents. So, thank them for that. And community cleanup, it's about that time again. We're there again. We're actually past it a little bit because we've just had so many things. The day is May 4th, and I know everybody's going to say that's the same as War Days. We know, but after that becomes Mother's Day, and before it is Easter, and so we don't have any other weekends to fit it in unless we want to do it in June or July when it's 150 degrees. So our plan is to, as normal, be done by 1 o'clock, and then everybody hopefully go to Clinton for the War Days and see all the things that they have and learn about history. So put it on your calendars. We'll start putting out some flyers, and same challenge again this year, Mayor and Chairman and all the districts.
I'm cooking.
Tennessee.
I mean, I don't know that winning that award was all that great because it just says you got the trashiest district in the county, but that's all right. We're that means we're cleaning it up one district by a time. So, thank you.
So you got the trashiest district.
I had it, and then the sheriff reminded me that he sends his crews out to our district more than he does any other one. So even he said I had the trashiest.
Commissioner Robinson?
Just appreciate all the county employees and everything that Sam said. I think he said it all.
Right. Commissioner Martin?
Yes, absolutely. I echo the good work in the water department. I'm happy that we're in the green, which means we can fund more without hopefully raising fees on folks that have tight budgets. Audit has been clean 2 years in a row. I think that's unheard of, probably across the state, for a county this size. Good job. Yeah, clap. Thank you. We were clapping for you.
She's in the hall. She's hiding.
She needs to come on in and take a bow.
She needs to come in and give a speech. I bet she takes off running.
She's going. So again, proud of that. I do want to do one little cautionary tale. Tonight we said no for senior housing in a particular neighborhood. We put a Dollar General in a residential neighborhood, and then we said no to commercial on a commercial street. And they all have valid reasons, points, and issues. But the danger is we become the county to not do business in. And the other part is looking out. If his data is real, which comes from an agency that we use, the concern is we may miss an opportunity for our seniors. And I hope we find another place. And that's my hopeful is that we identify the zoning opportunities for places like that and for businesses. We talk about it, it's in a comprehensive plan, but let's really put it out there so people can find it, along with sewer capacity and connections. We've seen them on maps, but I don't think businesses really know where that stuff is. Had you pointed it, if it was not on the map, I would not have thought it was behind all of that property and the long running there because you built it, so you know where all the bodies are hidden. And I was waiting for you to get
concrete plant. I don't know about anything else.
A little slow, but he got me.
That's what they use up north, concrete. So let's put that out there to be a business friendly, senior housing friendly, and the GET community I know needs one of those other communities in their hat to help move them forward as well. And on a lighter note, took some kids from Jones County, mine included, to a cycling ride. The Bragg Dream Team up in Baldwin County hosted a ride, and we rode for 31 miles. Chairman, you'd be proud. We made it, and so I want to talk with Matt about hopefully bringing a cycling club here because they take the kids out to the Bragg bike ride across Georgia, and it's passing through Baldwin County this year. So great job, everyone. Thank you.
That's it.
Chairman, one more comment.
You better hurry.
I got
we got
I know this is not in Jones County, but it's regional. Amerson River Park is now in the top 2 in the nation. We're going against a train museum in Wisconsin. And that is a theme park museum where you pay for admission. And so we need people to go to Amerson, take pictures, post it on Instagram, at ELGLKNOPE and vote for it. There's all kind of stuff on social media about it. That's how we get points, and so we're in the top two in
Top two
the
for what?
nation. We're best parks in the country.
Okay.
And it was a March Madness. We were started with 64 in the country, and we're all the way down to the final two.
And then that's Sam's Park, so you know.
That was my baby.
Tell that's his baby.
It was in 2015. We opened that park in May of 2015 after consolidation, and so.
Good job.
Saturday at 3:00 is the ending of the voting. So please, if y'all get a chance, and if you don't have Instagram, send them to me on social media. I'll Instagram them up for you. I got people that'll do it. So yeah,
So you're the one been hacking my account.
I won't listen. It's funny. It's named after Leslie Knope with Parks and Recreation, and my middle son is a good big fan of that. And he tells me, he said, Dad, I think if you win this, that's probably the thing I'm most proud of you about. And I'm like, really?
Wow.
All the things. This is what it's going to be for him. But yeah, really, that's it's a big deal for our region. So.
Mr. Chair, made the motion to adjourn.
Second. We got a second? Second. All in favor, aye. Thank you. Nobody won. Who had the?
Commissioner Robinson.
Again?
What did he say, midnight?
No, he said 7:16. Thank you, everyone.
Good news since the last.
All right.